Hello, class. I just want to kick off week 7 with a bit of help with your 7-2 assignment. If you watched my video from last week, what you'll see here is basically a refactoring of that code, and then I added the necessary properties to the course class to meet the new requirements. The is already registered property. And also, I added a constant value in there with a getter, an accessor for the number of hours that the course per, the course is worth. Uh, in the requirements here, it says that every course is worth 3 hours, and you can only sign up for 9 hours. But I went ahead just to make it more scalable and to demonstrate that, I went ahead and added a property to the course class called something like number of credit hours. And gave that a public accessor. And so instead of just adding a constant value of 3 for each course for the number of hours you've registered for, um, I'm getting it out of the object. That is a better way to do it. You can meet the requirements without doing that, but since you're watching this, why not do it that way? So let's take a quick look then at the video here. I think this will work, a video inside a video. We'll find out. There's a little video here that shows how this should work.
Hello there again. The school has hired a number of very talented C# programmers that took the console register student application and produced a Windows Presentation Foundation counterpart. And we were asked to use this WPF application to register for classes. So I bring up this WPF form and I click on this drop-down menu and I see a list of all of the courses for which I would like to register. I selected IT 145 and I click on this button to register for this course. I get a confirmation message that the registration is confirmed, and I get a list of the currently registered courses, including 145, and I get also a total credit hours for which I have registered so far. I would like to register for 2 more courses, so I select IT 200 and I click on that. I get the same confirmation for IT 200, and I can see the IT 200 has been added to the currently registered for classes, and the total number of credit hours has been updated to 6. I want to register for my 3rd class. I heard that the 315 is really a good class, and I would like to register for it because it teaches about object-oriented analysis and design. So I select this class and I register for. Oh, wait a minute. I think I made a mistake. I clicked on 200 instead of 315. Luckily, that GUI interface also picked that up, and it says I have already registered for IT 200. So I do not want to register for the same course twice. So I select IT 315 and I click on that, and it shows that the 3 classes that I'm registered for are 145, 200, and 315. And just to check to see if I can register for one more class, 330, IT 330, and I click on that, and it says you cannot register for more than 9 credit hours, and that is correct. So this WPF seems to be working pretty well.
Okay, so that's the required behavior and look and feel. So what you're going to see now is my implementation of that. And the one thing you may have noticed, the label that shows the status. It shows, okay, registration confirmed or or you've already registered for the course, or you can't exceed 9 hours. That's always red, the way he did it. Now I changed it up a little bit. I'm showing it blue if your registration is confirmed. If it's one of the two possible error states, you've already registered for the course, or you're attempting to exceed 9 hours, then I turn it red. That just seems like a better way to do it. You don't have to do that, but I'm going to show you how to do it, so you're welcome to use any of this code. That's so let's take a look at the course class first. Now I've changed that a bit. I added a constant for 3 credit hours here. Now you could maybe next week we'll do this. I'll show you how to do this and make it not constant. But let's take a look at something here now. So what I did is I have a course names string. So what you could do, and down here I'm setting it, I'm splitting it on the comma delimiter. So I have all these course names delimited by commas. Now what you could do, if you wanted to have this information, and this is just a prototype way to do this. Typically, once you implemented this for real, you'd be getting these courses out of a database. You'd query a database, get the courses that are available, and build your objects that way. But you would probably get more information about each course than just the name. So you might get number of credit hours for the course. You might get days and times that it meets, that sort of thing, unless it's an online course. But even then, you might get the instructor's name and different bits of information. So what I'm going to show you here just quickly, we're not really going to implement it yet, but so you could have a comma separating the course name and the number of hours. So let's say 3. And then we're going to delimit also by semicolon. So you're going to have a main delimiter so that we can split it into courses, and then each course we can split further into its components. How many components we have. Right now we're only going to have 2. And as I said, I'm not going to fully implement this. I'm just going to show you how you would do it. So let's say this one is worth 4 hours. And this one is worth 3 again. And so on and on like that. You get the idea. So then down here, you would initially split, and you would probably want to rename this from array course names to array courses. And you would split on the semicolon. And then inside this loop, you would then split each course. You would change that from course name to course. For each course in ARR courses, then you would split again on the comma, the internal delimiter. So that's the way you would do that. But I'm not going to do that right now. I just want to show you. But for the meanwhile, I have simply put a constant for that value in courses. But this way, at least we're partially set up so that we could make a change like that in the future without having to add a new public-facing property here, because we have public credit hours, and it's just going to return credit hours. Now notice we don't have this in front of credit hours as we do here for this.name. And the reason is, if you recall from last week, when you define something as a constant, it automatically becomes static, even though we don't explicitly say that it's static here. And if it's static, it's not a member of the object, it's a member of the class. So, if you were to implement the thing I was just describing over in the window, in the main window, and so that you wanted to get the number of credit hours from the database and set this every time, then you would remove the constant declaration here, and then you would instead of just having an accessor, you would make a mutator as well. But for now, it's a constant. So that's course. I've added, let's see, the name we did last week, the getter and setter. If you didn't see the video from last week, this is the C# way to do it, instead of two distinct methods, get name and set name. That's the old school way to do it. That's probably the way you did it in Java. But in C#, we have, I think, a better option. And is already registered. This is the public-facing property. For the private property, is already registered. And if you recall, by convention, by the coding standard, is if it's private, you start it with a lowercase character, and then the public facing property, you start with an uppercase. And then here there is our getter and setter. Very simple. I didn't put anything in here about hardening possibilities for cybersecurity and all that, because this is one of those cases where you may or may not need to do that. Probably anybody would be able to read this information, that whether or not you're already registered, anybody should be able to set it probably. But if you did need to add some cybersecurity checks around this property, these are the places to do it, the getter and the setter. And then credit hours. So that's basically all the new stuff in the course class since last week. Now, also, I want to point this out. I went in to the XAML here and changed some of these label names. You don't have to do that, but it's just going to make things a little more logical for you and make it less likely that you're going to make an error by setting the content of the wrong label, for example. Because I think they were just called label 1, label 2, text box 1. And so I've changed it up a bit. This is TXT total hours registered instead of just text box 1. This label here, please select a course, that we don't change that programmatically, so I just left it alone for the name. But the other ones, instead of label 2 and 3, it's label LBL registered courses. And actually, that one didn't need to change either. That doesn't change. That's just a label over the list box of your courses you're registered for. Then we have label total hours registered. Actually, that didn't need to. The only ones that really need to change, in my opinion, are registration status, LBL registration status. You're going to be changing that one programmatically in the XAML.cs main window. And you're going to be changing the text box, text total registered hours. So those I recommend giving them a more logical name, something that you can remember that's what you need to set. Whatever the default is for these that they've provided, you could just stick with those. But if you want to rename them all, that's perfectly fine. It's better to do that than not to rename the two that need it. Okay, so as I was talking about earlier, I've got a string of course names here. And then when the window is loaded, I split those course names on the comma delimiter, and then for each string in the string array, which will be a course name, I'm adding, and notice my dictionary up here. It's instead of a dictionary of, it's still a key value pair, but it's now a string for the key instead of an int as we had last week. And then the value is a course object. And so we're going to have a key value pair of course names followed by the actual course object in available courses. And then we're going to use this same course name that we've split from the big string to populate our combo box. So for every combo box item of available courses, we're going to have, backing that up, we're going to have a dictionary of available courses where the key value, the key for that particular row in the dictionary or a particular item is going to correspond to a course name in the combo box of available courses. So when you select something from the combo box, you can then programmatically go into the available courses dictionary and get that object representing that course name. So that's looks like a pretty clean way to do it. And so now on your button click choice is going to be, as I just mentioned, the available. You're going into available courses and get the object, get the course object represented by the selected item in the combo box. And then you can check if that object, if the is already registered property is true, then you're going to set the registration status foreground to brushes.red. Now that's the way to do it if you choose to manipulate the color like I did. You can't just set it to a hex value for red because it requires, um, you see, the foreground gets or sets a brush that describes the foreground color. And so you have to work with this System Windows Media Brushes collection, and then you get uh, a color out of there and set that. It's not difficult, but if you didn't know that, it might take you a bit of digging to find that. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it to you. So just remember that if you want to programmatically set the foreground of this label, uh, you're going to get something out of the brushes collection. And then we're going to use a string format to set the content of the label to the course name. You've already registered for this course. Now that's if is already registered as true. Otherwise, or else, we're going to come down and we're going to check. So at this point we enter the else. We know that we haven't already registered for that course. So now we're going to check and see if we have met the, if we're already at the limit of the 9 hours we're allowed to register for. So if registered credit hours is greater than or equal to max credit hours, and if you recall last week I recommended using a constant value for this instead of just plugging in what's called a magic number of 9 here. You don't want to hard code a 9 like that because this constant is, and the reason this is lowercase. Now this is a good time to describe a common coding convention with regard to the names of constants versus the names of variables, other variables that are not constant. For variable names, you typically want to use camel case. So every logical word in the name, like there are 3 logical words here: max, credit, and hours. So if that were a variable that you could change at runtime, it would be max, then uppercase C credit, then uppercase H hours. Max credit hours all strung together without the underscores. So each in a variable, each logical word starts with an uppercase character. Now, the exception being the first character if it's private. If it's private, the convention is you start it with a lowercase character, but each subsequent logical word would start with an uppercase character. And if it's public, then every logical word, including the first one, starts with an uppercase character. Now with constants, the convention is that each logical word is separated by an underscore. And if it's public, every letter is capitalized. Now, if it's private, I'm using I'm making every letter lowercase. So you can tell right away a private versus a public constant. We know this is a constant. We know it's private. And because it's a constant, it is static, so we don't have this in front of it. Okay, that's the foreground. We're changing the foreground color, and so if we've exceeded the number of credit hours, or if we've reached the maximum number of credit hours, then we're also setting it red, and we're doing a string format to drop in the course name. No, I'm sorry, the number of credit hours. You cannot register for more than this many credit hours. Okay, so if that's not the case, then we're cleared to go ahead and register you for the course. So we're going to increment registered credit hours by the number of credit hours that this particular course is worth. And remember, I've got a constant of 3 in there, so you could have just as easily used a constant of 3 out here, but I just wanted to go ahead and put it in the course itself. Then we add the course name to the list box showing what you've registered for. Then we set to registered. We set the course to registered. Now let me go show you something here. I wanted to use the standard getter and setter for is already registered. So if you do a read on is already registered, it goes to the get. Now this actually gives the person programming the main window 2 ways to set the course to registered. But I went ahead, instead of always relying on this one, so you would, out in the main window, you would say course is already registered equals true, just like you're doing here. So I wanted to go ahead, since it seemed to be a requirement to provide a way for somebody to call a method named set to registered on the course, which would then just set it to true without you having to pass in a true. That seemed, from what I read in the rubric, that seemed to be a requirement. So I went ahead and did that. So and that's not an uncommon thing. If somebody requests a feature like that, well, I want to just be able to call set to registered without having to pass a true into the mutator. Okay, we can do that. And then all I'm doing here is I'm using our mutator here. See, this is already registered. Notice this uppercase here. We're using the mutator. We're using the set when we do this, just the same as if we were doing it out in the main window. So I just wanted to explain that. But I do like to stick with the standard accessor and mutator inside a single method, just like we did last week with the course name. And then if somebody requests a different way to do it, you can still give them that, but it can still go through. And that way, if you did have some cybersecurity logic in here in the set, then when you invoke it here, it's still going to go through the mill of that cybersecurity logic. So that's pretty much it. It's fairly simple refactoring. Let me show you one last thing here before we run it. Well, let's run it first, then I'll show you, just to make sure we're all good to go. Because you don't want to do this last piece until you're done. But basically what I'm going to show you is we're going to use the IDE to remove any unused usings and to sort the usings that we have. So let's see. And I don't know if you can see it, but this is blue, dark blue, the status, registration status. So we've registered for 3 hours, 6. Now let's try to register for 200 again. And now notice that turns red, gets your attention. And let's go register for 328. Okay, turns blue again. We've reached 9 hours, so let's try to register for something else. Red again, you cannot register for more than 9 hours. Now let's try again to register for something we've registered for. You've already registered. So at this point, you're done. There's nothing else you can register for. So that's working, with the exception of the color change. That's working exactly like the video we saw. So if you can do that, then you're welcome to do it the way I did it, or some other way. Just be sure that it's your code is clean and scalable. And for example, you don't have to put this constant in here. You could put that over in the main window and then just always increment the number of hours registered by this constant every time out in the main window. You don't have to read it out of here. I just wanted to go ahead and do that because in the future we might set that value by something we get out of a database, for example. So let's do this. We're going to remove and sort usings. And there we go. So now we're clean. We don't have any unnecessary usings in there, cluttering up our compiled objects, compiled our executable file. And now let's make sure we can run it again. Everything still works. And here we go. Everything still works. And that's it. Okay, that's all I want to show you. Good luck with this project, and if you need anything, please reach out. But let's take one more look over this main window. The big takeaway here is I've got course names in a string, each course name separated by a comma. So then when I load the window, I can split that string on the comma delimiter and get an array of strings. And that array of strings represents an array of course names. So I can say for each string course name in array course names. Then I add, remember the dictionary here is a dictionary of type, it's a key value pairing of strings and course objects. So that's the thing about a dictionary. You can use any type for the value. So for each course name, I'm adding to the available courses dictionary the key of course name, because the key takes a string, and a new course object, and I'm passing the course name into the constructor. And then so I'm using that same course name then to add to my combo box of available courses. So now when we finish that loop, we have built a dictionary of available courses where we have the actual course object paired with the course name. Then in the combo box, we have the course names. So for every course name that you select in the combo box, you can go and look up the actual course object in the dictionary. So that's going to be very, very valuable. And from that point on, then we actually do that immediately on button click. We go and get the course object. We look it up using the selected item in the combo box as a string, and the key in the dictionary is a string, so we use that string to look up the value associated with that key, and that's going to return a course object. So that's it. From there on, it's just a matter of checking is registered, and then checking to see if we've met the max credit hours. And if none of that's true, then we come down here and register for the course. We set the course to registered, and we increment the registered credit hours. And then, of course, we modify the text box text total hours registered. We set the text equal to the string representation of registered credit hours. Set the foreground color. You don't have to do that. You're welcome to. And then set the content of the label. But that's it. Now, obviously, this is an exercise for you, so I'm not going to provide my source code other than in this video. Uh, but as I said, if you find yourself struggling, uh, send me an email and we'll talk. Well, that's it. Good luck with this assignment, and I'll see you next week.